Galw'r aelodau I drefn, a mae'n bleser gennyf gyhoeddi yn unol â rheol sefydlog 26.75 y rhoddwyd cydsyniad brenhinol I ddeddf iechyd y cyhoedd Cymru ddoe. Yr eitem gyntaf ar yn agenda ni wedyn yw'r cwestiynau'r Prif Weinidog a'r cwestiwn cyntaf David Rees.
Diolch, Llywydd. Will the First Minister make a statement on the discussions held between the Welsh Government and the Ministry of Justice in relation to the site of a new prison in Baglan?
Well, the Cabinet Secretary for Communities and Children has had discussions with the UK's Prisons Minister regarding the proposed site for development of a new prison at Baglan, and Welsh Government officials are also having ongoing discussions with Ministry of Justice officials regarding the proposal.
Thank you for that answer, First Minister. But as you know, the site that's been identified by the MOJ is within the ownership of the Welsh Government and lies next door to a housing estate, residential care home, a GP resource centre with 4 surgeries in there, and other businesses on that industrial estate. It also lies within the enterprise zone, which was established when the threat to Tata raised last year, and the intention being to grow and invest in businesses. Now, I don't believe that a prison would actually encourage that. For these businesses to grow, they actually want more space. They need larger units of 10,000 square feet plus. I've met with local businesses, and they want to grow. They want to stay. But if they see a prison coming damaging their growth opportunities, they have told me they will leave Talbot and possibly even Wales. Will the Welsh Government reject any bid from the MOJ for that land and instead invest in building these units, which can allow them to grow and commit itself to that as done elsewhere in Wales?
Well, the prison itself will create 500 local jobs and generate £11 million in revenue for the local economy. Could I reassure my colleague that, as someone who has a prison in his constituency and who was the ward councillor when the prison was being built in my ward at the time, that there were concerns at the time, no question about it, but those concerns were never realised. We didn't lose investment. In fact, a brand new housing estate is being built almost up to the prison perimeter at the moment, and those houses are being sold. So whereas people will inevitably have concerns about something new in the area, what we know from, not just from Bridgend, but elsewhere in Wales, is that prisons do generate jobs, and ultimately, of course, they don't have a negative effect on the local economy or town.
Bethan Jenkins.
Following on from that theme, last week, in a question that I asked the Cabinet Secretary, I said, why did you let the land go forward for consideration to be used for the prison? The Cabinet Secretary said, and I quote, "The member's incorrect in her assertion that I had an option in terms of the land issue regarding the prison." Could you please clarify this? Did you offer up that piece of land to the MOJ to consider? If you did not, how has it come about where a piece of Welsh Government land is being considered in the first place? If it is earmarked for potential other usage, why has it not been earmarked for that use before now for businesses locally, as David Rees has said? And can you confirm that you would be looking at other options in relation to this particular location? I'd also like to ask you, I've had an email from a member of Cardiff, staff of Cardiff Prison, who said that staff have already been told that Cardiff Prison is going to be closed for shopping development and that Swansea Prison is going to be closed also. Can you confirm this, or have you had any conversations with the MOJ with regards to this?
No, we haven't had any conversations along those lines. If she's got that email, I'd very much, if she feels able to share it, I'd very much like to see it. I'm not sure whether she's against the prison or whether she has other questions, but from our perspective, we know the prison can generate, as I said, 500 jobs, and I speak as somebody with a prison in my constituency. It had no detrimental effect at all on the immediate area, or indeed on the town of Bridgend, or indeed on investment. We know that a prison is needed, another modern prison is needed in the south of Wales. There's no getting away from that. But of course, it's hugely important to work with local people and businesses in order to reassure them based on what I've seen with my own eyes in Bridgend.
Caroline Jones.
Diolch, Llywydd. First Minister, the Ministry of Justice have indicated that they'll be holding a 2-day event in Port Talbot in order to garner the people's views on the new prison prior to submitting a formal planning application. While this is welcome, we need a more complete public consultation on the proposals. What discussions has your government had with the MOJ about a more detailed public consultation, and what role will the Welsh Government play in seeking residents' views on the new prison?
Well, ultimately, the final decision on the exact location of any prison is a matter for the Ministry of Justice and not for Welsh Government. It's now, of course, a matter for the UK Government to seek planning permission. It's in the UK Government's interest to make sure that there is full consultation locally. You cannot give people too much information. I remember what happened in 1995-96 when the Park Prison was built in Bridgend. People did have a lot of questions. Those questions were dealt with by way of a public consultation. And of course, we see ourselves 20 years on, not with the teething troubles, I have to say, when the prison was opened, but 20 years on, the prison is accepted as part of the community and has created hundreds of jobs.
Question 2, Nick Ramsey.
What plans does the First Minister have to recognise the additional challenges of delivering public services in rural areas in the distribution of local government funding?
Well, the core funding provided to Welsh local authorities each year is distributed according to relative need. The formula is agreed with the local government through the Partnership Council for Wales, and it takes account of a wide range of factors.
Thank you, First Minister, for that answer. As you know, a large percentage of Wales area is rural. I remain particularly concerned that the Welsh Government has not gone quite far enough in recognising rurality in its funding of local authorities over the last few years. Delivering services such as social care in a rural setting is always going to face additional costs when compared to an urban authority, and the same applies to other services provided by councils as well. Will you undertake to revisit the local government funding formula to see if greater weighting can be given to rurality over the years ahead?
Look at the, if I can use the word, rankings for local authorities. Denbighshire's allocation is the 4th highest, Gwynedd is 9th, Carmarthenshire is 10th, Ceredigion 14th, Powys 15th, Pembrokeshire 17th. In comparison, Swansea is 16th, Flintshire 19th and Cardiff is 20th. It would seem to me that rurality is taken into account, and the reality is, of course, it's a matter for local authorities to agree amongst themselves what they wish the funding formula to look like, rather than one authority wanting to change it without the support of others.
Joyce Watson.
We all know, First Minister, that the only way that you can deliver any public services is through the staff. And there's evidence come out this week that the public sector pay cut and freeze over the past decade is such that now teachers' pay has fallen by £3 an hour, police officers by £2 an hour, and nurses' wages have absolutely stagnated. And the result of that at the moment on the nursing profession particularly is that we are now seeing 51% leaving that public sector service over the last 4 years. So do you agree with me, First Minister, that the Tory public sector pay freeze is now risking our public service delivery?
Absolutely, I do. The time has come to ditch the public sector pay cap. We need to make sure that public sector workers are paid properly for the job that they do. I do not accept that there is some kind of financial restraint at play here, given the fact that £1 billion was found as part of a bung for Northern Ireland. If it can be found for Northern Ireland, the money can be found for our public sector workers.
Simon Thomas.
Diolch, Llywydd. Wel, un o heriadau penodol yn ardaloedd gwledig yw'r delio gyda pobl mewn oed a henoed gyda dementia, o pobl sydd ddim yn henoed hefyd gyda dementia, a dweud y gwir. A mae hwn yn her sydd wedi dod yn amlwg iawn yn ystod yr etholiad cyffredinol diweddar, wrth gwrs. Mae hwn yn cael ei crisialu yn y trafodaeth sydd yn digwydd hyn y byd ynglyn â dyfodol cartref bodlondeb yn Aberystwyth sy'n gwasanaethu Gogledd Ceredigion a'r canolbarth i raddau. A mae'n siŵr bydd y Prif Weinidog yn ymuno gyda fi yn dweud bod yr ymgynghofiad wedi dechrau ond di llun, y dweud y gwir, so mae rhaid i pawb lleisio i barn nawr fel rhan o'r ymgynghofiad yna. Ond a fydd y Llywodraeth hefyd drwy'r y Gweinidog falle yn trafod gyda Cyngor Sir Ceredigion, yn enwedig mae o posibiliadau newydd sydd gan y Llywodraeth ei hunan, megis gwlau extra care, neu cartrefi extra care, i weld os oes yna posibiliad i ffitio'r beth sy'n digwydd yn dyfodol bodlondeb yn rhan o patrwm ehangach sy'n gwasanaethu canolbarth Cymru.
Wel, wrth gwrs, mater i Geredigion yw hwn. Nes i sôn am bodlondeb wrthnos diwetha yn y siambr hyn, ond wrth gwrs, fel Llywodraeth, ni'n hollol hapus i weithio gyda awdurdodau lleol i weld pa fath o ffyrdd eraill sydd ar gael i weithredu gwasanaeth yn eu hardaloedd nhw. A mae hwnna, wrth gwrs, yn iawn am Geredigion ac yn iawn am bob awdurdod arall.
Lyned Morgan.
The First Minister will be aware that yesterday I published a economic development plan for rural Wales. Thank you very much. What assurances can the First Minister give me that the recommendations endorsed by a group of experts from rural Wales will be considered in the context of the new economic strategy for Wales?
Well, could I thank my friend Lynn Morgan for the work that she has done, the deep interest she takes in rural communities across Wales. We know that rural Wales will have specific challenges, particularly with regard to Brexit. We welcome as a government the publication of the report, and it will form part of the strategy that we have to deliver further for rural Wales in the next few years post-Brexit.
Cwestiynau nawr gan arweinwyr Pleidiau, Weinydd Plaid Cymru, Lianwood.
Diolch, Llywydd. First Minister, the governments in England and Scotland have announced that they will act to provide free access to abortion services for women from the north of Ireland. Will Wales follow suit?
Yes, that's what we want to do. We're looking at the detail of how that can be done, but we want to make sure that the same service is on offer in Wales as it is in England and Scotland. There are issues such as, for example, travel costs. Issues such as how do you provide ongoing care following a procedure rather than people just going home. These things are being considered at the moment, but I can assure the Leader of Plaid Cymru that what we're looking to do is to make sure that Wales, England and Scotland offer the same service.
I welcome your answer, First Minister, so thank you very much for that. Faced with this Westminster government that is committed to austerity, Wales needs a government now that is proactive on health. Almost 30,000 Welsh nurses have seen a 14% cut in their wages since 2010 due to the NHS pay cap. On page 56 of your manifesto, you say that you will scrap the NHS pay cap. The Scottish Government has announced that it'll get rid of the pay cap in its next budget, and all I've seen from the Welsh Government is a letter to Jeremy Hunt. The UK Government has effectively rejected that letter and is now committed to that pay cap. It's time now, First Minister, for you to take action. Why haven't you yet announced any plans to lift the pay cap, and will you make it a priority in your next budget?
We want to lift the pay cap. There are financial implications that we believe should be met by the Westminster Government. I don't know what their view is, if I'm honest, with the Leader of Plaid Cymru on the pay cap. I've heard different views from different ministers at different times. It shows the lack of leadership that exists in Westminster. She and I are in exactly the same position in wanting to see an end to the pay cap. We will continue to press the UK Government for more resources, and we will consider what we can do financially in order to move forward with that.
If it's that much of a priority, First Minister, you should be able to commit to this today. We've got a Labour government in Wales, we've got 28 Welsh Labour MPs, and the NHS pay cap still remains. You might be happy to blame others in terms of the Westminster budgetary constraints, but you could be taking action today to protect workers, NHS nurses and NHS staff in Wales. The whole point of devolution is to pursue a different way, a better way. And you could have made a clear commitment today to look at where that funding could come from in the next budget. So your lack of action begs the question, what is the point of Labour if you're not able to protect Welsh workers? First Minister,
can I please hear the Leader of Plaid Cymru, and can I hear less of ministers in the government and allow the First Minister to hear the question?
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'll give you one more chance to come clean on this now. Do you have any regrets about implementing Tory austerity, and when will you commit to lifting the NHS pay cap?
Well, the Leader of Plaid Cymru asked what the point of Labour is. I can remind her we have 28 MPs and her party has 4. That is the point of Labour. People have faith in Welsh Labour. We saw that in the general election campaign. They keep on saying, do this, do that. Well, people aren't listening to them. She and I are in the same position in terms of the public sector pay cap. Surely there are two things she must agree with. Firstly, that the first protocol must be to secure the money from Westminster. Surely we don't give up on that, and that is something that we need to pursue. Secondly, surely she doesn't expect us to make a decision on the hoof without examining all the potential costs, and that is something. Well, the Llywydd rightly stopped people heckling the Leader of Plaid Cymru. She could do the same for me. As I said, this is something that we want to take forward, but the first protocol is to say to the UK Government, you found the money for Northern Ireland, now you find the money for Wales.
Arweinydd yr wrthblaid Andrew Ati Davies.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. First Minister, last week, obviously, the Government took the decision not to back the Circuit of Wales development at the heads of the valleys in Blaen y Gwent. One of the proposals that was put forward was obviously the development of a technology park, automotive technology park, that potentially could create 1,500 jobs over its lifespan. The enterprise zone has been in existence in Blaen y Gwent for over 5 years now. In its first 4 years, it created 172 jobs, and in the last year the figures are available for, it managed to create a mere 8 jobs. What confidence can you give that this technology park that you're proposing will actually generate the jobs that you say it will generate, 1,500, when your enterprise zone that has been going for 5 years hasn't even generated 200 jobs?
Can I, before I answer the question, offer my sympathies as well to the leader of the Welsh Conservatives and indeed his group and the family, fiancé, friends and colleagues of Ben Davies, a tragic event that we saw in Greece. So, first of all, could I express my sympathies with regard to what happened to Ben. We all rely on our staff, and it was a deeply tragic incident for such a young man. The simple answer to this question is £100 million. We're going to put £100 million into the technology park. We've talked to businesses to assess the level of demand. Bear in mind, of course, that this formed part of the circuit scheme technology park. It was something that was mooted as part of that scheme. We feel that it can be taken forward, and having taken soundings from businesses and the need to invest, of course, in skills, that this is something that we can support. One of the issues that we have faced in the heads of the valleys for some years is investors saying that there are no buildings for them to go into. A speculative building is not something we want to encourage, but this is based on what businesses themselves have been saying to us. On that basis, we're confident that jobs can be created.
Thank you, First Minister, for your remarks about the tragic death of our Deputy Chief of Staff, Ben Davies. Politically, we are divided in this chamber, and that's what this chamber is for, debate and discussion. But actually, the human spirit unites us all. And from a party perspective and a group perspective, and from Ben's family's perspective, I'd like to thank all the members who have expressed their condolences and wishes to be passed on to the family in the support that they will need in the days, weeks and months ahead. They've gone from being in a position of planning a wedding to arranging a funeral. And that really does put everything in perspective when we focus on what we debate and discuss within this chamber. But if I could go back to my line of question, if I may, First Minister, I do take the point that the alternative offer that the Welsh Government have put on the table of this £100 million over 10 years and the opportunity to open up the door for 1,500 jobs in this alternative offer is most probably sincerely made by the Welsh Government. But the evidence that the Circuit of Wales pointed to was that actually in their extensive discussions, and you referred to this in your answer to me, in their extensive discussions about the development of a technology park based on the automotive industry, you would need a track for testing and that opportunity for testing facilities to be coterminous with the technology park to be successful. Time and time again, we have seen the Public Accounts Committee reports and scrutiny reports about the build it and they will come mentality of previous governments having failed and considerable sums of public money being put on the table and actually thinking the money will solve the problem. How can you have this confidence this time round when the evidence points to the fact that actually you have to have the two working together to make the technology park a success in an area that desperately needs that success to create quality employment opportunities?
We have had discussions with businesses, particularly those in the automotive sector, and they have said to us that the circuit is not required to move forward with the technology park. It's something that would be nice to have, but not essential to have. I think if I've represented in that way, I think it's a fair representation. But certainly, the development of the technology park, in their view, is not dependent on the development of a circuit. What is absolutely crucial is that we secure the jobs in the technology park and protect the public purse. That's hugely important, and that's exactly what we've done in taking this decision.
Will you therefore then, First Minister, make public all the evidence that you've based your decision on, the £100 million investment and the due diligence that you, as a government, most probably, well, I hope, have undertaken, the ability to have confidence that 1,500 jobs figure will be reached so that in 2, 3, 4 years' time we are not looking back at a big shed that is empty and these job opportunities lost to that particular area of Wales. As I've said, and I sincerely mean it, I hope the jobs come, but if you look at the track record of the 5 years of the enterprise zone, which was an automotive enterprise zone, I might add, you haven't managed to create 200 jobs in that area, and in the last year figures available, only 8 jobs have been created despite all the incentives of the enterprise zone. So will you therefore make public the evidence that you have based your decision on to sanction £100 million worth of investment and the feasibility in the figure that you've put forward of 1,500 jobs being created?
We will make available all that can be made available, subject to commercial confidentiality discussions, of course, with other businesses. But I think it's right with this decision and this project that as much information is in the public domain as possible. We're not afraid of that. And certainly it is something that we are considering. How can we get as much information into the public domain? We saw some emerging today in an unfortunate manner, but we want to make sure that the information is there for members and for members of the public.
Arweinydd Grŵp UKIP, Neil Hamilton.
I'd like to continue this line of questioning with the First Minister, if I may. Is it not a tragedy that the Circuit of Wales project appears to have been strangled, not because of any credible doubts about the viability of the racetrack project, because there was nothing in the Cabinet Secretary's statement to that effect, but because of a technical internal accounting device by Her Majesty's Treasury and the Office for National Statistics? Shouldn't we look through the form of the accounts to the substance of the project? It's an entirely private sector funded project up front. All the Welsh Government was asked for was a guarantee for which they would be paid £3 million a year. It was secured on the assets which are to be constructed because the guarantee doesn't even begin until the construction phase is completed, and that 100% of the assets were available to secure what was a loan of less than 50% of the funding. So on the face of it, that appears to be pretty good security. And is there not a way through this, even at this late stage, that we could continue to look at the possibility of untying the Gordian knot with the Treasury and see if there is an imaginative solution to this in accounting terms, which would enable the private sector money to be put in, which, on balance, I think would be better than for the Welsh Government to have to commit its own money up front, which is now what is proposed?
The issue is this, isn't it? The problem has always been that if this project had strong support from private investors, it wouldn't need a guarantee from the government, and it would be able to stand on its own 2 feet without that guarantee. As we said in the Chamber last week, the difficulty that we have faced is that no final decision will be given by the ONS or Eurostat as to whether this financial deal will be on or off the balance sheet until the contracts are signed, by which case it's too late. And of course, at that point, we are in a position where, in 2 years, 3 years' time, if the circuit didn't work out, the guarantee is called on. That is the problem with this. Now, we cannot take that risk. We know that we would not get a final decision from them. The fact that, as the deal is currently structured, it does not appear to have met our conditions. If a new proposal comes forward, then of course we'd examine it. But we cannot take the risk with public money and take the risk of this money appearing on our balance sheet. If that were to happen, we would be treated as if we had already paid that money over and the money would be cut from our capital budget, which would mean, for example, potentially having to make cuts in this financial year. Now, that's not something that we as a responsible government can take a risk with.
I fully understand that point, and that, of course, was included in the original statement. But the idea that a project which would be funded privately to the tune of £375 million, a guarantee on the part of the Welsh Government, which would cover less than half of that, could be put on the Welsh Government's books as entirely a public sector project is self-evidently ridiculous, and therefore there must be a way through this. The Welsh Government guarantee would never be called upon up front in any event under the terms of the deal, because it's an annual amount which the government would be obliged to pay. In the worst case scenario, that the assets were built, that the racetrack itself never made a penny of profits so as to pay the interest to the investors, Aviva in this particular instance, and then the government would be called upon on an annual basis to pay that element of the guarantee to them. You will never be called upon to provide £210 million in a single lump sum, and the £8 million worst case guarantee is amortised over a period of 35 years. I mean, it's absolutely preposterous that these government accounting conventions should be used to frustrate a project which would utterly transform the whole of South East Wales. And surely the Welsh Government ought to exert itself, strain every sinew to try and find a way through.
We cannot ignore the reality of the fact that there is a high risk, in our judgment, that we would see £373 million lost to the Welsh capital budget. That is something that cannot be, that no responsible government could ignore. I come back to the point. If the project was able to stand on its own, this is not a government project. This is a project that's come forward from a private consortium. The question that has never been answered is why the project can't stand on its own 2 feet. If it is deemed to be that successful by private investors, then people will ask the question why that is. We have worked, of course, with the business. They've brought forward several schemes over the past few years, and we've tried to help them in any way, but they did not meet our conditions that we set down. We've examined all the risks, and it's quite clear that the risks are too high to proceed with this scheme.
But not too high, apparently, to conjure up £100 million out of the back pocket as a reaction to this failure. And if it's possible to find £100 million up front, effectively now, why is it impossible to find £8 million a year from 2 to 3 years' time for the following 30 years? Surely, I repeat the question, with an ounce of imagination, there must be a way through this, and the Welsh Government would have the united support, I think, of all the parties in this Assembly behind it to make this project succeed. Surely, the prize is too great to give up at this stage.
It is the responsibility of the circuit to bring forward any new proposals of the Welsh Government. This is not a Welsh Government scheme. The circuit were given conditions that they had to meet. They did not meet those conditions when we looked at the due diligence. He says £100 million out of the back pocket is £100 million over 10 years. So not suddenly £100 million in the space of 1 year. That is the commitment that we make to Ebbw Vale to bring the jobs to the technology park, and we are confident, having spoken to businesses, that that technology park will be a success.
Question 3, John Griffiths.
Will the First Minister make a statement on progress with local government reform in Wales?
Yes, as I said in my statement on the legislative programme on the 27th of June, we will introduce a local government bill in the second year of our programme to reform local government.
First Minister, local authorities deliver key services to our community, so it's vitally important that we have a thriving local democracy. A fundamental requirement of that is local authorities that reflect their local populations. But the most recent local elections delivered something like 28% of our councils across Wales in terms of women councillors, with individual local authorities ranging from something like 10% to 40%. So we do need to make progress. Would you agree with me that one important aspect of making necessary progress is to have strong role models amongst our female councillors in Wales? And so would you also join me in welcoming the re-election of Debbie Wilcox to lead Newport City Council and his subsequent election to lead the Welsh Local Government Association and so lead local government in Wales?
Yes, I do very much welcome Debbie's election. She is the first of many, I hope, because we can't say that local government representatives are truly representative of the entire community in Wales. We are a long way from being able to say that. I can say prior to the local elections, we ran a number of projects as part of the Diversity and Democracy programme. 51 individuals from underrepresented groups participated in the programme, and 16 of them stood as candidates in the local government elections this May. So some progress, but true to say, much progress needs to happen yet.
Janet Finch-Saunders.
First Minister, the Future Generations Act is referenced widely within the Local Government Reform White Paper, and it is abundantly clear that this particular Act provides us with a superb opportunity to contribute towards successful reform of local government. Tackling poverty is also a key theme within that Act. Given the timing of the cessation of Communities First, and in line with local authority reform, what consideration have you made to include a poverty reduction stream in those changes going forward?
Well, as part of the local government bill that we will introduce, we will, of course, this is no secret, look at ensuring that local authorities work together on a regional basis in order to deliver services for the people that they represent. I'm sure local authorities would accept that poverty reduction is, of course, a hugely important role that they are able to play, and, of course, they will be able to do that working together across a wider area.
Sian Gwenllian.
Mae llawer o bwyslais ar gydweithio rhwng cynghora ar lefel ranbarthol ym Mhapur Gwyn y Llywodraeth, Cadernid ac Adnewyddiad. Mae Plaid Cymru yn awyddus i weld pedair sir o gorllewin yn cydweithio yn strategol ar faterion sy'n unigryw i'r gorllewin ac sy'n codi o'r plethiad hanfodol hwnnw sy'n rhwng yr economi wledig, tai, cynllunio a'r iaith Gymraeg. Fe ellir ehangu ar hynny i greu rhanbarth neu gynulliad y gorllewin fydda'n gweithio ochr yn ochr ar dinasoedd rhanbarth. Fel mae Eluned Morgan yn nodi, mae angen i'r Llywodraeth yma gefnogi cefn gwlad Cymru. Ond nid creu comisiynydd newydd ydy'r ffordd mwyaf effeithiol o gyflawni hynny yn fy marn i. Ydych chi'n cytuno fod annog cydweithio rhwng siroedd y gorllewin yn cynnig ateb cychwynnol, cost effeithiol, ymarferol a synhwyrol?
Ydw. A mae'n holl bwysig wrth gwrs bod hwnna yn digwydd a nod y mesur sicrhau, mesur y gair ni dal i ddefnyddio wrth gwrs llywydd, dy nod y mesur sicrhau bod hwnna yn digwydd. Ni'n gwybod wrth edrych ar y model sydd yn addysg, sef y consortia yn addysg, bod pethau wedi gwella blwyddyn ar ôl blwyddyn, lle mae awdurdodau lleol wedi gweithio gyda'i gilydd. A dyna wrth gwrs sy'n ni moyn adeiladu arno wrth edrych ar y deddfwriaeth.
Cwestiwn 4, Mark Ishwood.
Will the First Minister make a statement on access to tobacco products in Wales?
Yes, young people's access to tobacco products has been successfully reduced as a result of legislation, and the Public Health Wales Act, the seal of which I applied yesterday, provides further safeguards with the introduction of a retail register and an offence of handing over tobacco products to those under 18.
Thank you for that. Well, the 2016 Tobacco Manufacturers Association Anti-Illicit Trade Survey found that 62% of Welsh smokers purchase non-duty paid tobacco products. The financial rewards of this illicit trade are high, the penalties are low. This is threatening 1 in 8 corner shops in Wales and across the UK, and most worryingly, people don't understand the added health risks of this type of tobacco. What consideration has your government given alone, or perhaps working with the HMRC, to tackle this?
It is a matter ultimately for the HMRC to deliver any breaches of, to enforce rather any breaches of excise law. That is not a reason to lower taxes, obviously, on tobacco. I was not suggesting that, in fairness to him. But it is hugely important that people are able to provide intelligence to the enforcement agencies. And, of course, I know the checks are carried out at the airports, particularly from areas that are seen as areas of risk when it comes to importing tobacco and cigarettes, particularly from jurisdictions where the prices are very, very low. But obviously we seek to work with HMRC in order to reduce and eliminate smuggling.
Rhiannon Passmore.
Diolch, Llywydd. First Minister, in 2015, small shops and retailers fell into line with large businesses, with it being illegal for them to display cigarettes and tobacco in public. At the time, the Health and Social Services Minister, Mark Drakeford, stated smoking still causes around 5,450 deaths in Wales each year. Around half of all regular smokers will die prematurely from smoking-related illnesses, and that's why we will continue to work tirelessly to reduce smoking levels to 16% by 2020. First Minister, what progress is being made to hit that 2020 target, and what challenges do we face to meet it, and what further action can the Welsh Government take to fulfil our aim?
Well, the Tobacco Control Delivery Plan will be published later this year. That will ensure that action remains targeted to achieve our goal of reducing adult smoking prevalence to 16% by 2020, and it will outline a number of measures to reduce smoking further, to prevent young people from taking it up in the first place, to improve cessation support as well, and of course to further denormalise tobacco use.
Cwestiwn 5, Jeremy Miles.
Pa gamau sy'n cael eu cymryd gan Llywodraeth Cymru i fynd i'r afel ac allyriadau nwyon tŷ gwydyr?
Wnawn ni cefnogi camau gweithredu penodol wrth ni drosglwyddo i economi carbon isel, enghraifft defnyddio ynni adnewyddadwy a chynyddu ailgylchu. Ni hefyd yn sefydlu'r fframwaith tymor hirach ar gyfer cwrdd a'n targed cyfreithiol yn neddf amgylchedd sef lleihad o 80% mewn alloriadau erbyn y flwyddyn 2050.
Fyddwch chi'n gwybod bod Pwyllgor newid hinsawdd newid gyhoeddi adroddiad wrthnos diwethaf yn cloriannu perfformiad y Deyrnas Unedig a'r cenhedloedd datganoledig yn erbyn i targedau amgylcheddol ac yn nodi gwelliannau yng Nghymru yn y sectorau gwastraff a diwydiannol, ond yn nodi cynnydd mewn alluriadau o adeiladau busnes anheddau ac yn y sector drafnidiaeth. Ar sail perfformiad hwn, maen nhw'n dweud bydd yn debygol na fydd Cymru'n cyrraedd targed o 20% llai o alluriadau erbyn 2020 a bod angen gweithredu ar fyrder. Ydy'r Llywodraeth yn derbyn yr asesiad hwnnw a pa gamau penodol bydd y Llywodraeth yn cymryd ar sail adroddiad y Pwyllgor?
Ydyn, wrth gwrs, y ffynhonnell mwyaf o alluriadau yw'r sector ynni hunan. So felly, beth sydd eisiau sicrhau bod mwy o ynni adnewyddadwy ar gael enghraifft y lagwn. Y lagwn y Mai Abertawe, fydd nhw'n gwneud gwaniaeth mawr, nid dim ond ynglyn ar ymgylchedd, ond hefyd wrth gwrs ynglyn â chreu swyddi yng Nghymru. A felly, ni dal i aros i weld beth bydd Llywodraeth y Deyrnas Unedig yn penderfynu ynglyn â'r lagwn hynny.
David Melding.
First Minister, NRW's report tree cover in Wales's towns and cities found that 1% of all tree cover is found in areas of high density. Housing and the Welsh Government's own report, Local Air Quality Management in Wales, identified increasing tree cover as key to improving general well-being, reducing greenhouse gases and improving air quality. Are you committed to seeing a significant increase in the amount of urban woodland we have?
Yes, people welcome woodland. They welcome broadleaf woodland particularly. I remember my days as Rural Affairs Minister, one of the issues that used to exercise people was clear felling and what they saw as the scars that were left on mountainsides as a result. We know that there is more work to be done in terms of increasing the amount of tree cover in Wales, and we are working with NRW to facilitate that.
Sam Thomas.
Diolch Llywydd. Bod ni'n wir beth mae'r Prif Weinidog yn dweud ynglyn â diwydiant trwm ac ynni yng Nghymru. Mae hefyd yn wir i ddweud bod cyflwr gwael yn taini, hefyd yn ychwanegu at allyriadau carbon, a hefyd trafnidiaeth gyffobles sydd gyda ni yng Nghymru. Ac y ffaith drist amdani yw beth bynnag sydd gyda ni fel targedau, mae mwy o alluriadau carbon fesul y pen yng Nghymru nawr nag oedd 10 mlynedd yn ôl, ac mae wedi gostwng yn Lloegr a'r Alban. Mae'r arfau yn eich dwylo chi, yn deddf ymgylchedd, chi'n gosod allan y byddwch chi'n yn sicrhau cyllideb o carbon, y gyllideb carbon felly, ac yn ystod y flwyddyn nesaf bydd wedi chi paratoi hwnnw, a fyddwch chi'n rhoi ymwymriad felly bod y gyllideb carbon gyntaf gan y Llywodraeth yn gosod allan sut y byddwch chi'n lleihau allariadau'r carbon.
Wel, un peth allai ddweud wrth yr aelod yw, ni ddim yn ei ailystyried target hynny. Y ffocws nawr yw sicrhau bod yna weithredu ar y target hynny ac wrth gwrs i ystyried pa rheoliadau sydd eisiau mwyn sicrhau hwnna. Ynglyn â fel ni'n symud hwn ymlaen, wrth gwrs ni'n mwyn sicrhau bod ni'n symud ymlaen gyda rheoliadau ynglyn â cyllidebau carbon. Mae rhaid i ni wrth gwrs i ystyried beth yw'r lefelau iawn ynglyn â wneud hynny, ac wrth gwrs bydd y lefelau hynny yn cael ei sefydlu ar dystiolaeth sydd yn dod o'r corff ymgynghori.
Cwestiwn 6, Mike Hedges.
Will the First Minister make a statement on the importance of sporting success in promoting Wales to the world?
It plays a rich part in our culture and tradition. We're almost a year on from the Euros, which did more than, I suppose, any politician could have done in raising Wales's profile around Europe and the world. And yes, one of the things we sometimes forget is at a time in the 19th century when we had very little else to show as a nation, sport played a huge part in developing modern Wales and giving people a sense of nationhood. It was in 1905 that a national anthem was first sung at any sporting event anywhere in the world at the Wales-New Zealand Games. So hugely important, not just in terms of adding to our culture, but of course as an economic driver, particularly in Swansea.
Can I thank the First Minister for that response? I think we I think most of us really enjoyed Wales' success last year at the Euros, and that we really did see Wales being promoted as a major player in Europe because of it. I think it is, of course, crucial as Sport Wales also realises the importance of professional sport in Wales. Does the First Minister agree with me regarding Swansea City and the importance of Premiership football for promoting Swansea and Wales? 38 Premiership games a year shown on television throughout the world with the word Swansea being mentioned. That's the best publicity Swansea or Wales gets from anywhere. And is the First Minister also very pleased that Swansea is spending yet another season in the Premiership?
Well, the simple answer is yes. I don't think I can go much beyond that, but my friend Mike Hedges is absolutely right to say how important Swansea City is as a brand for the city of Swansea as well. And we've worked through Visit Wales with the club since 2011 to increase the profile of the club and, of course, the profile of Wales.
Mohammed Ashka.
Presiding officer, after Mike Hedges, exactly the same. You know, the tremendous effect, the success of our national team, football team, in reaching the semi-finals in Euro 2016, we had in promoting Wales in the world. Now, I think the cricket is also the sport which is commonly played among Commonwealth countries. And some of the countries which are much smaller than Wales are representing in the world stage and flying their flag in the cricket fields all over the globe. Why can't, First Minister, we agree on this now that the time has come for us, Wales, to have its own cricket team to represent Wales in the world stage?
This is an issue that I've certainly supported in the past, certainly a one-day team. So, not a test team. I don't think we are playing close at that level. But it is odd that we see Ireland and Scotland playing in international tournaments and not Wales. We did have a one-day team at one point for a few years. I know there are concerns in Glamorgan because of the financial advantage they get being part of the England and Wales Cricket Board, as is sometimes forgotten about. But yeah, from my perspective, I'd very much like to see us represented internationally at cricket, as long as, of course, there's no financial hit on Glamorgan and their ability to play at the highest level.
Neil McAvoy.
First of all, I would say, unfortunately, I think Mike Hedges was right, actually, about Swansea. But to be, as a Cardiff City fan, it is. Yeah. But to be serious, though, I've had a lot of complaints from constituents that they don't feel that we support cycling enough in Wales. Geraint Thomas has just been the first Welshman to ever wear the yellow jersey, and I would hope you would congratulate him on that formally. And I would just like to know what is your government doing to promote cycling more?
We've had events, of course, being held in Wales, such as the Tour of Britain, if I remember. I remember being in Cyflwynir, watching it as it crossed Cyflwynir mountain. We have, of course, the velodrome in Newport, which is a very good facility for people to be able to use. And the fact that we have had success in international cycling, Geraint Thomas, of course, at the moment, Nicole Cook and others in the past, shows that we do have the facilities in place to promote cycling. And we know, of course, that cycling, again, is one of those sports that is an elite sport at international level, but is a hugely important activity in terms of improving people's health when they are cycling for recreation.
Cwestiwn 7, Hefyn David.
What work has the Welsh Government undertaken to implement the recommendations of the Ministerial Supply Model Task Force report published on the 2nd of February 2017?
Well, a working group has been established to take forward the recommendations contained in the Task Force's report. That includes support for professional learning opportunities for supply and NQTs, and the development of a programme to support and build capacity in the system via school cluster arrangements.
One of the issues raised by the report was the variable, inconsistent and complex picture of supply teaching. I was pleased to see that the Cabinet Secretary picked up all 10 recommendations, although she did recognise that care must be taken with regulating standards of commercial supply agencies. I've got a constituent who is a supply teacher who has written to me, and she tells me that she's employed through an agency who deduct a third of her salary before she takes it home. She also feels that supply teaching should be both recruited and employed by local authorities and or by consortia. That's her view. Can the First Minister confirm that the Government is, as he's indicated, taking forward these recommendations and will press ahead with them imminently, but also what can be done with regard to regulating agencies and achieving parity of esteem between supply teachers and their full-time equivalents?
This will become easier when teachers' paying conditions are devolved, but it is right to say that I've heard it myself in my own constituency about people complaining about agency fees that are paid. There's no requirement, as far as I can see, that local authorities have to go through an agency. It's just that they choose to go through an agency, nor are they required to go through a particular agency, nor are school heads necessarily. So I think it is important that local authorities examine the way in which supply teachers are provided in their areas, even though it's a matter, I believe, for school heads rather than local authorities, to make sure that school heads themselves understand that there are options available to them when it comes to recruiting supply staff.
Mark Reckless.
Can the First Minister give an assurance that no school that has a successful model for them of supply cover will have that replaced by a top-down model applied across all schools, whether in Wales or by local authority?
Well, it has to be fair, of course, to the supply teachers. A successful model will be one where teaching staff are available to a school, but where teaching staff are treated fairly as well. That, to me, is a successful model. Where those models exist, there seems to be no reason to change them.
Adam Price.
Un o'r siomedigaethau yn credu ar pan nath yr adroddiad ymateb ysgrifenedig y gweinidog i'r adroddiad cael ei gyhoeddi, oedd nad oedd y Llywodraeth ar y pryd yn gallu rhoi arweiniad ynglyn â'r ddwy argymhelliad oedd yn mynd yn fwyaf pellgyrraeddol o ran rhoi ateb i'r sefyllfa. Hynny yw, reoleiddio y sector breifat, fel oedd Hefyd David yn cyfeirio ato fe, o ran gwella safonau, ond hefyd creu system ranbarthol ar gyfer cyflogi yn uniongyrchol, ac mi oedd y Llywodraeth wedi gaddo dod nôl gyda ymateb ar ôl i ragor o waith cael ei wneud ar y ddau bwynt yna. Odi'r Llywodraeth mewn pryd i gyhoeddi yr ymateb hynny nawr?
Ynglŷn â'r ffwrpyn rhanbarthol, ni'n symud ymlaen gyda hwnna, llai gadarnhau hwnna mwyn sicrhau bod hwnna'n digwydd. Ynglŷn â'r a delio gyda busnesau yn y sector preifat. Wrth gwrs, mae yna faterion sydd yn croesi mewn yr ardal sydd heb wedi datganoli. Felly ar hyn o bryd ni'n ystyried faint mor bell allan ni fynd.
Diolch i'r Prif Weinidog. Yr eitem nesaf ar yr agenda yw'r datganiad a chyhoeddiad busnes.